Good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy day 23. Can you believe there's only, I can't count, 19 days left? Is that what it is? Yeah, because yesterday was day 22 and there's 42 days to kickstart. So 23 is one more day. So that's one less day. So it's 19. Yes, Jean-Luc is not a mathematician. Jean-Luc does not do math. And I'll be honest, not many interpreters do math either. All of us say, like, it's so funny. It's like a joke in the interpreting world that math is a great subject to have to interpret. You know why? Because there's a chalkboard normally, and you're like, look at these are the numbers you need to add together. Because it's really hard to put numbers in the air and have people understand. Can you guys hear me okay? Just want to make sure you guys are hearing me good. Excellent. We are so excited about our guests tonight, but before we do that, you know us, we always have announcements. You already see Tracy up on screen with us. Tracy is not just a fabulous entrepreneur, a fabulous person, but she's also a good friend of ours. So let's hold off on that really quickly because we have a few announcements that we'd like to make. As you already might have known, Nick and I canceled step this morning, and Nick woke up not feeling. We actually both woke up at 5:45 and Nick wasn't feeling well. And I was still kind of like, you know what? I'm not feeling terrible, but I'm not feeling great. And I'll be honest, teaching step alone is not easy. It's tough because you have to talk the entire time. And no, it's not the same. It changes the dynamics for us as well. So we both said, let's just go back to bed. So we went back to bed and thought we set the alarm for 8 o'clock, but we did. It's 7:50, but I woke up, sprang out of bed at 8, going, "Oh my God, it's 8 o'clock! Got to get to work." And Nick, so we both woke up and got to work. And Nick made it through almost his entire day, except for at lunchtime. He's like, I'm going to go take a nap. So he went and took a nap at lunch. We were going to do our challenge and our weigh in at lunch. He's like, I'm taking a nap. I'm like, okay. He goes, we'll do it before step. So at, I would say, 4:45 is when I went, I don't think he's waking up. And I still don't want to teach step. And I was going through that afternoon feeling like, I don't feel terrible, but I know I don't feel 100%, but I can do something. So I decided to cancel step. And however, I still did an Olivia Lawson video, which is just a lot of movement and side by side. And I only had to do like 20 minutes or so to get my ring because that was my goal. My goal was just to complete my 30-minute ring and my 600 calories for the day. Because I'm not going to lie, I don't want to lose my streak.
I'm gonna be doing that during
Nick's going
class.
to be doing that during this session where he's going to be walking in place in order to get his 30 minutes in.
I'm not feeling the best still.
He definitely is not still not feeling the best. So a few announcements. Other than that, a few announcements that one little funny story from yesterday. Not everybody knows this, but I was making breakfast yesterday morning, and as I was making breakfast, I no longer make. Well, not that I no longer make. I don't make as much of my granola as much anymore because of all the nuts and all the higher bites and stuff like that. And that's a personal choice for us because we know if it's on the counter, we're just going to eat it. We're not going to pay attention to how much. We're just going to eat it. So right now, it's just we're eliminating it. But you know what I started doing? I started baking just my oats with a little bit of maple syrup and just sprinkling a little bit of that on top of my fruit. It's really good. So bake your oats, people. Just bake them like as if you were making granola without everything else. And on WW it's 0 points. On healthy it's 0 bites. So like it still works and it gives you that crispy, crunchy flavor texture that you want. And there's not enough maple syrup on it to really make you go, oh my God, I'm having way too much maple syrup. But as I was doing that, our beautiful Peru was sitting on the counter. And you've all seen my big drawers with all my utensils. And this one's over here is like, don't put your elbow in my face. So not even realizing it, I go and I shut the drawer on Peru's tail. I've never heard a cat scream. Nick's in a meeting, and this cat is screaming. And I ended up getting the wrath of Peru. She bit me. She scratched my hand. She scratched. It was my hand was swollen a little bit. It was itchy. No worries. I didn't have. There's not much. There's a one little tooth puncture. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. If it would have been really bleeding a lot, I would have went to the doctors. But there's nothing there. My hands are fine. But it was more. I felt guilty. I'm like, my baby girl's gonna hate me forever now. And 10 seconds later, she was all over me again. So I was like, okay, I'm good. But I just felt guilty. What a feeling it feels to when you hurt somebody you love, right? It really does. Like, and I think that's really great because it's tonight's topic. It's all about emotions. So I had all these emotions going through my head, and so it was kind of a weird feeling because I've never hurt someone like that. I'd never heard an animal like that before, and I knew it hurt, and I was afraid because I had heard rumors that you can break a cat's tail apparently. So I was just like, I hope it's not broken. So that was my little segue of yesterday. But few little last things. Jamaica, 4 spots left at the early bird price. So if you are still thinking about it, we recommend that you go to the website, jeanlucandnick.com/Jamaica, fill out the form. It's a $300 deposit, of course, but talk to the travel agent. If not, they'll most likely still be availability of to come with us, but the pricing is not guaranteed anymore, unfortunately. Next thing as well is the U.S. Tupperware Party. I will be reaching out to our lovely Lynn, who helped us host this, to get that up and running and that the sales and the winner picked. And we are still trying to figure out the whole Epicure situation. So if any of you have heard or have received your order and we have no back office anymore, so it's really hard for us to keep up with this. So we're going through some stuff, but we don't have all that information. But if you did get something, please just let us know so that way we know that at least you got products. Again, we don't know what's happening there. As soon as we get more information, if they're continuing on with a new name or how it's going to work, we'll see what happens when it happens. We're not even sure what we're going to be doing about that yet. So enough with that. Let's get into tonight's topic and our amazing special guest, Tracy Frankland. We're so excited to welcome Tracy with us tonight, as a registered nurse, a cancer coach, She has her own podcast, um, and she does her live session. And she's here with us tonight on our live session. With 30 years of experience in healthcare, Tracy specializes in helping cancer survivors reclaim their lives through her 3-pillar program, focusing on mind, body, and soul. Herself, as a breast cancer survivor in remission for nearly 12 years, if I'm not mistaken, it's like celebrating like today or yesterday. I think I saw a post. It's now. Tracy embodies resilience and strength. She's also an entrepreneur, a co-author, and hosts her podcast, What Has Changed Your Life, where she shares transformative stories and insights. Her passion as a fitness instructor, Tracy leads rebounding and pound classes. For those of you who don't know rebound, they're like the Kangoo, the jumping shoes. They're amazing. So much fun. Nick and I have been saying we need to come to your studio and do class very soon because it's been a long time. And she also promotes physical wellness while empowering others to live their best life. So please help me in welcoming and the inspiring Tracy Franklin. Hi, Tracy.
Hello, it's so good to see you guys. It's been
It's
way
great to
too
see
long.
you too.
Thank you for having me for another episode in Kickstart. I'm so excited
Always.
to be here.
You're always welcome.
Well, I hope everybody has their pen and papers ready because we're going to be learning a lot of information tonight. Hopefully, I don't go like whoa at you with all this stuff because, as Jean-Luc and Nick know, I love talking about thoughts and feelings and emotions, and that's kind of my wheelhouse. So let me just share my screen and let's get into it. Okay. And you guys can see that okay? Yeah, perfect. I'm just moving that so it's kind of not in my eyes. All right. So let's get into it. Tonight, we are going to discuss negative emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and how to eliminate them quickly and easily. But first, when I was asked by Jean-Luc and Nick to talk about negative thoughts and how to overcome them, it reminded me of the time that I peed my pants. So imagine a nervous high school student standing on the brink of uncertainty and opportunity.
Tracy,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but we're seeing your notes and everything. So I don't know if you
Oh,
want to change that view. just so
Oh,
that,
that's my presenter view.
yeah,
Just so I don't forget what I'm saying.
of course.
Hang on. Let me
No
see. Let
worries.
me try again.
There we go. Perfect.
Now, let's see.
Oh, no, it's going back to that one.
It's gone back to that one. Okay. Hang on. I love technology, but it sometimes does not work.
I think if you go to the one right beside it, not the four squares, but the one with the line above and below.
No, that just
No,
shows you the
that
things.
just shows you that separately.
Yeah. So that's the presenter view, or that's your view. I think it went back to it, didn't it?
Yeah, it's going back to the other.
To my view.
Yeah.
Oh, they're right there. Try full screen present. Oh, on top where it says presenter view.
Yeah, I think that's just my view.
That's your
Yeah.
view still. Either way, you can go whatever works best for you. We're fine.
You want to see all my notes. uh Let me try this again. Okay, we can do this because I can just take my notes off my phone because I have them on there too. I've never had it go to presenter view like that before, so that's kind of interesting. So I will just please hold. Your call is very important to me.
So, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you guys are still, you know, can you believe we're halfway through Kickstart? I'm like, honestly, my mind is still.
I made a fix on the stats page today.
Oh, you did, honey. What did you do?
Your dates are going to be in order now.
Ooh, dates in order. Wow, that'll help.
I fixed that. Yoo-hoo. I sound very enthusiastic.
And yes, Charlotte was saying that today is World Cancer Day. That is correct. And I think that's where I saw Tracy post that. And then my mom as well, being a breast cancer survivor, and she's been cancer free for a little over 20 years now, if I'm not mistaken, which is mind-boggling when you think about it, because I remember the day she told us that she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and never an easy diagnosis for anyone to tell. I believe another friend of mine as well, of ours that we know, he mentioned it today, and we weren't aware of it, that he is also he was also diagnosed with cancer. So it's scary when people tell you this, but we have people out there who are survivors and thrivers from it. We all know my friend Shannon as well. Shannon, who's come and actually going to be coming as part of Kickstart. She'll be here closer to the end of Kickstart and talking about her journey and everything. So it's always amazing to see how many people are so close to us have been affected by that letter C. It's not a friendly thing, but it's something that we can overcome, or some of us can, and we can still we need to talk about it. We need to be okay with it. So,
Sorry,
oh
it's not
wow,
working.
Patricia, that's amazing.
So can you still see presenter view?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're still seeing presenter view.
Because for some reason it's not coming up on my phone very well.
I'm not sure what live can. Oh, there we go. That's not presenter view anymore, though.
No.
For anybody wondering about Alaska, we don't have any news yet. It'll be coming soon, but we don't have any news about it yet.
Wow, and Marilyn sending lots of love. Over 11 years cancer free as well. a survivor. It's incredible. It's incredible. Like we said, we don't know how many people around us and what people are impacted by, right? So,
It keeps wanting to flip out. And you can see presenter view now. Can you?
So Tracy,
Yeah.
what you can do is stop presenting. No, not there. On Zoom. Stop presenting on Zoom.
Stop share.
Yeah. Now open your two views. When you share screen, share the one that's the presenter view, the main screen one, not the. So when you open it, it creates a separate window. When you open your
Yeah.
presenter view, so when you share for Zoom, make sure you select the window that has the full presentation.
Except it keeps getting rid of my view. Well, let me see if this works. Hang on. Open that up.
So now we see your screen correctly, and you should
And
have
nothing
another
else.
tab. So you're
Yep.
still presenting. Did you have another tab somewhere else that you can see your presentation?
Yep.
Okay, so
Now I got it.
there you go.
Yay. Lord. Okay. Let's start again. First of all, can you guys hear me okay? I can't see you right now. So if somebody can just say yes or no, that would be good.
Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. So back to the story about when I peed myself, because it's a fun story, but it has a good ending. So when I was in high school, I was standing on the brink of uncertainty and opportunity, preparing to deliver my very first speech, getting ready to attempt to win over a sea of skeptical students. That student obviously was me, and I was running for student council. I'd never written a speech before. I didn't know how to ask for help, and I had no idea what I was doing or how to compel people to vote for me. So, as I approached the stage, the weight of that inexperience and self doubt came crashing down. And it was a realization so jolting that I peed my pants. I went out there anyway, looked at the sea of students, gave my speech that I hastily written, and ran off the stage. Needless to say, I did not win the election, and I considered myself a failure. And my first thought was this: see, that's what everyone keeps saying about me, and I just proved them right. I proved that I am not smart enough. I'm a failure, and I'm never doing that again. And that was something that I carried with me for a long, long time. Those thoughts that I had and the thoughts of other people. So let's get into talking about emotions first. Negative emotions are part and parcel of the human experience. In fact, I would argue that they are essential in the part of the human experience, because without emotions, how would we know they're polar opposites? How would you be able to fully experience happiness without knowing sadness, or experience excitement without knowing indifference or apathy? So the problem arises when negative emotions and thoughts become chronic. We get trapped in a thought cycle of negative emotion, and it seems at times that there's no escape. So now what precedes emotions? Thoughts. Thoughts are what precede emotions. The thoughts you think cause you to feel a particular way. Two people can go through the exact same situation or problem and have completely different reactions. Why? It boils down to the thoughts they think. The root of all human emotion lies in thought. So one example of this would be the story of two women. They turned 70 years old, but the two women completely attached different meanings to that event of turning 70. One thinks that the end is near, that being 70 means her body's done, time to wrap things up, and that's it. The other woman decided that mountain climbing might be a good sport to take up. So for the next 25 years, this woman totally immerses herself in this adventure of mountain climbing. And when she is in her 90s, Hilda Crooks was the oldest woman to ascend Mount Fuji. Sometimes it's not the environment that shapes us, it's the never the events of our lives that shape who we are today and determine who we will become tomorrow. It's sometimes the meaning we attach to those events, how we interpret those events, that determines what sort of life we end up with. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control the meaning we assign to it and our reaction to it. Another example is two young brothers, both born 11 months apart. Their father, unfortunately, was into substance abuse, not a very nice individual, and ended up in prison. One child ended up going down the same path as dad, unfortunately, got into substance abuse, stealing from other people, ended up in jail like his dad. And the other one is the exact opposite. He's a regional manager of a national store, happily married with 3 children, physically fit with no drug or alcohol addictions. So you ask yourself, how can two boys who grew up in the same house with the same parent turn out so differently when they've had the almost identical upbringing? Both boys were asked privately, why did your life turn out this way? And shockingly, they both gave the same answer. What else could I have become having grown up with a father like that? So again, sometimes it's not necessarily the events that shape our lives, but our beliefs about what those events mean. Thoughts may seem insignificant because we can't see them, but they actually control our life. Thoughts are like pulses or bursts of energy that have the power to define who you are and what you become. So it's important to realize that nothing comes into existence without being your thoughts first. And negative thoughts can increase emotional distress and fuel anxiety, depression, and other psychological disorders. Some negative thoughts may sound like these, and you may resonate with them. I will never be able to do it. I'm not good enough. It's too hard. This is all my fault. And I am weak. Or there might be some that you're thinking right now that I haven't listed that you've heard or you've said to yourself. When negative thoughts become constant, they develop into unhelpful thinking patterns. So here are some unhelpful thinking patterns that I want you to be aware of. So one of them is called all or nothing. So all or nothing is believing that something or someone can only be good or bad, or right or wrong. There's no gray area. There's nothing in between. So somebody who is thinking unhelpful thoughts in the all or nothing category would be saying to themselves, I didn't get top marks on my assignment, so I'm a failure. So it's either I did well or I didn't. That's it. There's no in between. And catastrophizing is the second one. And it's imagining and believing that the worst possible thing will happen. Healthcare workers, sadly, we do this a lot because we see the worst case scenario. So we just imagine always the worst possible thing that can happen. So I remember one night I'm calling my son, it's late at night, he's not answering. And immediately the first thought in my head was, he's in a car accident, he's in a ditch somewhere, I have to go find him. So that is an example of catastrophizing something. And personalizing is concluding without factual evidence that what's happened is your fault, even when you're not responsible for it. And you then end up relating those external events to yourself when there's really there's no basis for it. So one thing you could, that comes to mind again, we've heard people say is, if I had been there, none of this would have happened. It probably would have happened anyway, but this is somebody who's personalizing it, says to themselves. Magnifying is when we blow things out of proportion. For example, our partner we make a dinner for our partner and they don't say anything about the meal that you made. And you say to yourself, well, they must not love me or appreciate me because they didn't say anything about the dinner. Making something that is small, maybe not that significant, into something that's huge, like a mountain out of a molehill. That is magnifying. And the exact opposite of that is minimizing. Minimizing is inappropriately reframing events to make them seem not as important. And again, healthcare workers do this. And one example I can think of was one time we were doing CPR on a patient and somebody was talking to one of my colleagues and they said, well, we just did CPR on that person and we got a heartbeat, no big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. So that is somebody who minimizes what their event is, a big event, minimizing it. And mental filter is when we focus on one detail, often taken out of context. So ignoring other parts of the experience. A girlfriend asks you to go away for the weekend on a girls' trip, but you're upset because she didn't ask you first. So in your mind, that means she didn't really want me to go. But in reality is maybe she did call you earlier and you didn't answer the phone. But this is us taking that mental filter and taking things out of context and filling in the blanks. Our brain is very smart. When it doesn't understand a situation, it will then jump to unhelpful thinking patterns. Jumping to conclusions, drawing negative conclusions without all the information. And this is again where our brain is very smart. It needs to fill in the blanks. So we'll start to imagine what someone is thinking. We'll start predicting outcomes, even though they haven't even happened yet. Or we'll make global judgments about yourself or other people. And I'll talk about global judgments shortly. An example of this would be, I didn't get the job. The interview must have thought I wasn't smart enough. I'm never going to find work. This is so pathetic. That would be jumping to conclusions. Maybe you weren't the right person for the job. Maybe there was a candidate that was in-house and they hired in-house over you and it had nothing to do with your intelligence or anything. But we jump to those conclusions because our brain needs to fill the blanks. Labeling and mislabeling. So assigning global labels to ourselves or to other people that make general assumptions about personality or about behavior. We can do this to ourselves or we can do this to other people. So when we're doing it to ourselves, we might say to ourselves, oh, I'm not smart. I'm not a smart person at all. We've just now taken a negative label and put it on ourselves. Or we'll look at somebody else and we'll be like, oh my God, they are a genius. Meanwhile, no, they might not be a genius. They might be pretty smart, but not a genius. But we've now labeled them as such. So that's labeling and mislabeling. And overgeneralization is drawing a conclusion about abilities or performance of ourselves. So an example of that is when I was in high school, a guidance counselor told me that I couldn't go to university. I was not smart enough to go. He took meeting me twice. He gave me that generalization. I then took it and never went to university because I believed what he told me after 2 visits. And finally, the last two are emotional reasoning. And that is assuming your emotions logically and factually reflect reality. So when I was dealing with anxiety when I was in my 30s, whenever I would feel anxious, I would then automatically think, this situation is dangerous. I have to get out. Meanwhile, it was probably a situation more often than not that it wasn't dangerous at all. But the minute I felt anxious, my brain said danger. So that's emotional reasoning. And should statements. So using should, must, or have to in order to impose unrealistic expectations on yourself or others, feeling guilt or frustration or resentment when the rules are broken. And one example of this is going to a meeting and it's not working out, and you say to yourself, I should have prepared better. Because now you feel guilty. Now you're putting resentment on yourself. Maybe the meeting didn't go well because the computer wasn't working properly and you had to restart your meeting like tonight. That happens. That's life. So it's about taking those unhelpful thoughts and turning them around. So let's get back to the idea of thoughts being the root of all human emotion. So positive thoughts lead to positive emotional states, and negative thoughts lead to negative emotional states. Sometimes it can be as easy as that. Sometimes it can be a bit more complex. What we're trying to do is create awareness around your thoughts, because that's the starting point. When we become aware of our negative thoughts, you can begin to look at the thoughts more objectively and understand how those thoughts might make you feel, how they might make you behave, and then you can consider a more adaptive way of thinking or change your response to the thought. This brings us to beliefs. Your thoughts, more especially your beliefs, create your reality. This is a truth that is very profound, that it has the power to totally shift your life if you allow it. It's not often that external circumstances of our lives cause the problem. Sometimes it's the thoughts we have regarding the circumstances and events. When I believed that I was worthless and not smart, this created my reality for decades. And again, I believed what somebody else told me, and that became my reality. And if there's one thing that I say tonight that you take away from this, is you are not other people's thoughts. You're not your parents' thoughts. You're not your siblings' thoughts. You're not your coworkers' thoughts. You're not your boss's thoughts. You are not other people's thoughts. And we get into this thought loop when we are trying to decipher, because a belief is a thought on steroids. So we have our external event, which is our triggering event, then creates this belief or thought, and then into your emotions, what we're feeling affects our behavior, and that then becomes our current reality. So reframing the thoughts and the beliefs become extremely important, because it can change how we react. It can change our behavior. Therefore, our current reality becomes different. So Brooke Castillo, in a book called Self-Coaching 101, says, and I quote, "When you think a thought, you have a feeling. When you feel a feeling, you take action or not because of how you feel. Your actions, behaviors, create your experience in the world, and ultimately what your life looks like becomes your results. If your thoughts suck, your life is going to suck. If you aren't aware of your negative thoughts, you become enslaved by them." So your beliefs act as lenses through which you view the world is determined. So we see the world not as it is, but as we are. So you have beliefs about yourself, about people, about the world, and so on. And getting into those global beliefs, they're big generalized beliefs that we hold about people or circumstances. So some people say men are fill in the blank. I am, Australians are, Canadians are, women are, and those become global beliefs. They can be extremely destructive, global beliefs, because when one group of people believe that they are better than another group of people, and that second group of people is inferior to them, that is when things become destructive. And we're seeing that south of the border. That is also something that happened in South Africa with apartheid. Beliefs are very powerful because they determine what we see in the world around us. That's because the brain filters whatever it takes through your belief system, ignoring any information that does not support your pre-existing beliefs. So if you believe that you can't do something or accomplish something, you won't be able to do it. If you believe that you struggle socially, then you're going to behave in a way based on your behavior. And then you're going to be looking for people to reinforce that behavior. And then you're going to be like, see, I just proved them right. I am a social outcast. I do struggle socially, without taking everything into consideration. And it becomes a really vicious cycle. So where do beliefs come from that you're currently holding? They come from people and they come from events in your past. So most likely you unthinkingly adopted beliefs of your parents, teachers, friends, colleagues. Maybe people were, teasing you when you were a kid, or maybe that coworker is a mean girl. And those type of beliefs you adopt. But we can change what we believe. Some people believe that eating fat is bad for you. But then you read a book about how having an avocado, which is a fat, is great. And then you understand the benefits of having that fat and you change the way you eat. So we can change our beliefs. But when we're born, we have no beliefs and we develop them over time out of experiences that we have. And the thing about beliefs is that they don't have to be true. In fact, they can be utterly irrational and totally nonsensical. In 1978, Reverend Jim Jones got 918 people to drink cyanide laced Kool-Aid because he claimed it was the end of the world and doomsday was coming. It's 2025 and the world is still here. That is how powerful, when somebody believes something and they're passionate about that belief, they can sway what you believe. Your job is not to judge your beliefs or yourself. You have to evaluate them objectively, whether the beliefs you have are taking you towards your goals or are they beliefs that are taking you further away from your goals. So in other words, are your beliefs supporting and serving you, or are they disempowering you and weakening you? And then you need to change the disempowering belief to an empowering one. So how do we do this? How do we change those thoughts and beliefs? One of the things that I learned taking an ACT therapy course was this wonderful ACT therapy strategy. It's called noticing and naming. What you do when you have unhelpful thoughts is you're going to notice that you're having that unhelpful thought. And you're going to then name that thought, whether it's worry, predicting the worst, not good enough. And when you do this, you're going to going to be a negative self-judgment, and you're going to put that into a short sentence. So I want you right now to think of something that someone has said to you in a very short sentence. For example, for me, it would be, I am not smart. That counselor said, I am not smart. Now sit with that for a minute. For you, it could be, I feel like a failure, or whatever it is that's coming up for you. I want you to sit with that for a minute. Get caught up in it. Believe it. Now, I want you to silently replay the thought with the phrase in front of it, I am having the thought that. So I am having the thought that I am stupid. Sit with that for a minute. Now I want you to replay it again, one more time, but this time add the phrase, I am noticing I notice that I am having the thought that I am stupid. I notice that I'm having the thought that whatever it is for you. What did you notice when we were saying, I notice that I'm having the thought? Did you notice that the thought kind of lost its sting from saying, I am not smart, to I notice that I'm having the thought that I'm not smart? This is our brain unhooking from the thought that's basically screwing us around and hooking us and keeping us there and taking us away from our values and our goals. Because sometimes it has to do with fear. So this is a simple exercise that you can do by just saying, I notice that I'm having the thought that I'm sad, or I notice that I'm having the thought that I'm anxious. And this will help you take an objective view back from that thought to analyze what is really going on here. What am I anxious about? And then we can evaluate more objectively. You can also use a thought monitor. So a thought monitor helps you to become aware of your negative thoughts when you're, especially when you're feeling distressed. So what you do is you have the list and you're going to put the event that triggered you, what beliefs and thoughts that you had at that time, what feelings and emotions are attached to that, and what was your response. The thing about this exercise, it can be a very eye-opening exercise, but it also can be very empowering. When you change how you think, you change how you respond. And once you identify your thoughts, then you're able to restructure them or reframe them. So the example here is a job rejection was the event that was activating or triggering. The belief that you may have would be, I'm a failure, I'm never going to get a job. The feeling and emotion is, I feel horrible, I feel sad. And the response is, I'm going to stay home, I'm never going to apply for that job again. So then we can again evaluate this thought monitor and take a step back and look at things objectively. We can also look at examining the evidence, consider alternatives to what we're thinking, and then we can conduct behavioral experiments. So let me go into that a bit deeper. When we examine the evidence, we ask ourselves, is this true? Is this thought true? And this is actually a cognitive behavioral therapy technique, and it involves questioning and examining the validity of the thought. So if I have a thought going back to, that guidance counselor, I am not smart, is that thought true? When I looked at it objectively, I'm a nurse, I'm an RN, I've taken tons of courses, I've done very well on the courses. You kind of have to be kind of smart to be a nurse. So is that statement true? No. And that is the beauty of evaluating the evidence, because then you can look back and be like, no, that's not true. And I'm not a failure. I just had to learn a lesson. So this is how we can do this. And what are the alternatives? So when we ask ourselves what the alternatives to this thought are, our goal is we can't get rid of the thoughts, they come. But we're trying to show a new way of thinking that's more positive and less distressing. So if you feel that your last relationship, for example, was a failure, the alternative would be to look at it like a lesson and learn from it from the next one. No, it wasn't a failure. You spent great time with that person. You had to go through that to get to your next step. That can be true for friendships. That could be true for work relationships. That could be true for just about anything. So when we look at the alternative, as opposed to, saying I'm a failure, be like, no, I had to do that in order to get to here. And we can also conduct behavioral experiments on ourselves. So, for example, I'm very socially awkward in situations that are social. I do not know how to make small talk. That is something I struggle with. However, if I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to go to this party, nobody is going to interact with me. I'm not going to know how to interact with them. I'm going to have a terrible time. Then that prevents you from actually going. But if you conduct a behavioral experiment, you go to the party and you start watching, how do people respond? How do people respond to me? Are they frowning? Are they walking away from me? Or are they smiling? Are they laughing? Are they engaging in the conversation that we're having, even though inside my head I'm struggling? This experience will help you to most likely come up with a different conclusion than you originally thought. So I might go to the party, feel like I'm going to be socially awkward, have a fantastic time, watch the people and see how they react to me, leave the party going, you know what, that was kind of fun. And I made some new friends today. And so by conducting those experiments, you come up with a different conclusion than what your mind has made up for you, because it's trying to hook you and keep you away from doing something that is a bit out of your comfort zone. So a person's body language and voice also provide clues to the thoughts that we're thinking and to our feelings that we're experiencing. So people usually express what they're thinking or feeling through emotion, which are then expressed in body language, through our words and our emotions. And we have to start being in tune to those clues. But you need to know what to look for. So when we're looking at our body language, we're looking at physiology, we're looking at language using our words, and we're looking at focus. What is it we're focusing on? What is it we believe in terms of our thoughts? So when we're talking about physiology, we're talking also about body posture. We're talking about body language, physical demeanor. And in language, we're talking about our words, our tone of voice, our volume, our inflection. And in focus, what we believe, what we focus on, or what we believe in. So when we have our body language, the way we sit, for example, or stand or move, affect not only how people perceive us, but also how we feel about ourselves as well. So we're going to do a quick exercise. So I want you to sit the way that you would sit when you're feeling sad. I want you to try and make the same kind of facial expression. Are you frowning? Are you looking down? Is your head down? Is your head to the side? Are your shoulders slumped? I want you to kind of feel that feeling. Now I want to reverse it. Sit the way you would sit if you were feeling happy. How would your posture be? Are you smiling? Where will your eyes be? Are they up or are they looking out? Where's your head? Where are your shoulders? Are they back or still forward? And look at the picture of the girl here at the front. Which girl looks ready to do the job interview? Same girl, but you see different postures, and you can also see the difference it makes. Your language and tone of voice also affects the way that you communicate with people. So a raised tone, a harsh voice will make you and also the person you're speaking with a bit anxious, guards are up. So when we are speaking confidently, then our voices will be clear, our posture will be up. We will be speaking in a way that exudes confidence, as opposed to letting our thoughts take over and be like, oh, I need to be small, I need to be meek, I need to be mild voiced. You will be, because then you will be perceived as afraid and make you feel very small. But we want to make sure that you are up. even if you don't 100% feel it, keep your voice level, keep your posture up, do the Wonder Woman stance if you have to. Those are things that will help you reverse your thoughts in that moment and how you feel and the belief that you aren't enough or not smart enough or whatever it is you're thinking, so that you're able to take command of that room or wherever you are and be able to get your message across. So let's say, for example, we're having a thought that nobody loves me. This leads to the negative emotions, sadness, disappointment, frustration. And these feelings manifest in that slumped posture we talked about and general demeanor of defeat. You can use the physiology as a force to reverse that emotional state. So, like I said, you could simply change this by smiling, even sometimes if it feels fake. Sitting tall, walking with that confidence, that will make you feel happier and more confident. And when we change our focus or the thoughts that we think, your thoughts and beliefs are the ones you choose to focus on, will affect your emotions. It's a whole vicious cycle. So, focusing on problems leads to sometimes more problems, whereas focusing on gratitude and positive thoughts are going to result in more good things coming into your life. Now, let's learn how some of the language we can help get affected by learning about self-concept. Self-concept is your overall perception of yourself. So it's answering the question, who am I? Self-concept consists of self-esteem, ideal self, and self-image. And your self-concept drives those attitudes and behaviors. So this is really, really important that we understand this concept. Because when we understand the self-concept, your current self-concept, then you're able to make shifts. So when we are going through a wellness journey, like we all are, we are in a place where we are in our current self. Our ideal self is down the road being that healthy person that we want to achieve. Problem is in our current self, it's a struggle to see ourselves as that healthy future self. And this is going to impact your ability to make those long-term changes because it's too much of a big shift to go saying, I'm unfit and healthy, unhealthy to I am fit and healthy. So we have to change the way that we say that so that we can create our reality and it becomes our reality. And this is another reason why sometimes positive affirmations don't necessarily work, because it's too much of a shift to go from being where we are today to that future self. So one of the things that we have to change in terms of our self-confident, our self-concept, is our habit change. And habits become effortless when it's who we are and not what we do. So on your journey to becoming this new version of yourself, we have to go through a bit of an identity shift. Because again, our thoughts and feelings create our actions and our reality. So one of the concepts that really helps people, with, especially on wellness journeys, is instead of saying, I am unfit and healthy and unhealthy to I am fit and healthy, we are going to start saying, I am becoming. So I am becoming a fit and healthy person, or I am learning how to become a fit and healthy person. And the more we say that phrase to us, that language helps us become the version of ourselves that we strive for, that future person that we want to become. And you can see it by looking at the first two circles that are just side by side, looking at the current self and the future self. When we start saying, I'm becoming, or I am learning how, then over time, the more we say it, those circles will start to become overlapping. And that is how we, the power of changing our language, because when we say it over and over again, then it becomes what is our reality. Saying this way also takes away that sting, any held belief that you have about yourself, because you're now becoming and you're now learning and you're giving yourself the grace to become and to learn. With time and patience, you can learn how, with these tools, how to overcome negative thoughts and change your life so that you can live healthier, happier lives. Now you have a better understanding of emotions, of thoughts and beliefs. You can use the notice and name, the thought monitor, physiology, language, focus, and self-concept to help you change your habits so that you can change your life. Questions? Thank you for listening, by the way. I know we were off to a bit of a rocky start at the beginning, but
Oh, wow. You have got so many thoughts going through my head right now, Tracy. It's crazy. But good thoughts. Like it's so really
good.
funny because there's so many things that stood out, especially when it's coming to emotions, because I'm currently reading The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
Such a good book.
Oh my God, I'm listening to it because I've come to find out that I prefer listening to books than reading them because I can multitask as I'm listening. So,
Yes.
and the one thing she said today, which really made me, it was about emotions and
Mm-hmm.
saying that emotions are all they are is a chemical that that gets released in our brain that creates an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the ones that decide what that emotion is because so many emotions are so similar to each other, but we're the
Yes.
one that decide, is it a happy emotion or is it an excited emotion? Is it a fearful emotion? Or you know what I mean? So it's really insane that you said that. And the other thing that stood out to me was what you just spoke about, this whole idea of the I am a fit and healthy person, or I am becoming a fit and healthy person. And the fact that we think that our journeys are done when we get to that point,
No.
but they're not. The journey never ends. And even when we
Yeah.
say, "Oh, well, I'm on a wellness journey," well, guess what? If you're on a wellness journey, your wellness journey is for the rest of your life. It's not just this timeline, right? It's not just say,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, I'm only going to be on a wellness journey for 6 months." How does that make
It's
sense,
yeah, exactly.
right? And so
Exactly.
what you said tonight really, really resonated with me. I think it resonated with a lot of people. I love the fact that, we are the ones that are in control, even though we allow others, we give the others the control sometimes, and we never
Yes.
should. We should always be in control.
Yes.
I believed I could before this finish my exercise ring, and I did it.
He was listening though.
I was
Yay.
listening, but I was walking
Okay.
around as I was listening
And
to
I
get.
kept encouraging him, going, "You can do this, hun. Just grab the weights, do this." And and it's
I
so
got
funny.
through it.
It's funny how we sometimes just don't believe in ourselves, and that's just
Yeah.
a thought.
And a
Even
belief.
yeah.
When people so the thing too, like when we have people that are supposed to love and care for us, like our
Mhm.
parents, say things to us, especially as children, we have to believe that that is true because
Yeah.
they're the authority. So sometimes those thoughts are, we have to really unravel them and be like, okay, where did that thought come from? And
Mm-mm.
you know, what would you say to your friend if they came up to you and said, "Oh my God, I'm such a loser"?
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Or what would you say to that 7-year-old version of yourself about that thought or that belief about
Mm-mm.
yourself of not being smart enough or not good enough or feeling worthless? What would you say to them? And that's that unpacking of other people's beliefs and thoughts onto you.
Well, and I could be very honest about this, if I would have believed one of my teachers in college, I would
Mm-hmm.
not be a sign language interpreter today
Mm-hmm.
because they told me I would not make a good sign language interpreter. I was told that straight on. Oh, you wouldn't
Yeah.
make a good interpreter. And I've been interpreting for 24 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
it goes to show you that sometimes, you have to make that the fuel that fuel that fires you. When
Mm-hmm.
someone tells you something that's absolutely not true, you don't
Yep.
have to believe it.
And remember, those are their
Yep.
opinions.
That's their thought.
That's
their
right.
It's
belief.
not a reality. It's not a fact.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I
And
know we
that's
talk.
why they can be utterly nonsensical because it doesn't, when you look at the facts and when you evaluate it, you're like, oh, that really doesn't make any sense at all.
But we don't sit and evaluate enough, I think. I think
It's true.
we get thrown these beliefs up from other people into our face, and we think we have to believe them, and we think they are reality, when really they're not reality.
They're not.
They're not.
They're not.
You
And
can
taking this, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you can make it a reality if that's what you choose to do with it,
Hmm.
but you don't have to.
No. And taking that step back by just changing your language
Mm-mm.
is a great way, like I said, to evaluate, is this true? Is this real? And then deciding what to do with it.
Yeah, questioning everything.
Hmm.
Questioning everything, questioning yourself. Because a lot of times, you know what? We have our own bias about things. We have our own, and like you said earlier on, there's a lot of stuff that we believe, even to this day, it's because it was taught to us by either
Yeah.
our parents or our family members, just like the myth. Don't go
Yeah.
swimming. You can't go swimming till after you have to wait 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Is
Or
that
don't
true or
eat a
not?
banana before bed.
Oh, or an apple. I remember my mommy said if you eat an apple before bed, you'll have bad dreams.
Yes.
And
And we believe that stuff.
I'm like, you know what? Now I'm gonna go eat an apple just to see if it's gonna be true, right? Like, but it's so funny how we are programmed, right? And I think it's
Mhm.
a lot of it has to do with social media. A lot of it has to do with the
Yes.
news. A lot of it has to do with things happening in the world. And you have to understand there's going to be some people that you're going to agree with and believe in the same things, while others you might not. But it doesn't mean you can't agree to disagree sometimes and not learn
Absolutely.
from each other.
Exactly. Exactly. The one thing
Yeah.
I will caution people about social media is the algorithm is so smart these days that if you have a belief about something or a group or whatever it is that you believe, the social media will actually feed you things to solidify that belief. So always question and be like, always have that thinking cap on when, especially when it comes to social media, because it's not always right. So we need to always take a step back and understand that it's feeding you what it thinks that you want to know. And so that can also solidify a belief even when it isn't a true belief.
It's telling me I should eat Doritos and Lay's potato chips right now. That's what it's telling me. I'm- but it's so true. It's so true because as much as I hate to believe that it's listening, it is listening
It's listening.
in its own way, right? You do a
Hmm.
search on anything, and all of a sudden, that's all you see in your feed. All of a sudden, and again, why does social media do that? Because it knows that we as humans, if we see something over and over and
We'll
over
believe
again,
it.
we start to believe it. We start to embrace it. We start to include it in our lives, which is
Yes,
not always a bad thing, but we're not always doing it in the best way possible. We're not doing it the way we
exactly.
should be doing it.
Exactly. So I always say to people, it's a word of caution when it comes to social media. Just,
Yeah,
so it doesn't change your belief. Always know what your values are. Know where you stand within your values. Remember how you show up in the world and how you're going forward. And I think when we stick with our values and remember how do I want to show up in the world? How is it integrity? Is it like, what are your values? And continue to follow that compass, that moral compass, it will never steer you wrong. So there's
definitely.
another piece of advice there.
I love that. I've been putting I am statements on my mirror for the last 23 days and I have not missed a day. Pictures haven't gone up, but I even did it when we were in Costa Rica. I even put
Mhm.
words, I brought my Sharpies and I was writing on a mirror every day and they didn't erase it, which I was so happy about. And it really it really has made a difference. Just
Yes.
writing these words out and believing them,
Yep.
telling myself that I am resilient, that I am smart, that I am good looking, that I am proud of myself, that I am
Mhm.
all these things. And the more you say these things to yourself and you repeat them to yourself, the more they come a reality. The
Exactly.
more they shine through you without you even having to tell yourself. It just
Yeah.
becomes an automatic, like any type
Yeah.
of commitment you do, any type of goal you start, any type of habit you start creating. So it really, I hope something resonated with you. I'm sure a lot of people resonated with what you said with us, Tracy. You're always a pleasure to listen to.
Ah,
Uh,
thank you. Thank
we
you for
adore.
being patient with my technical difficulties.
We had some on Sunday.
We just had some ourselves. Technical difficulties are what make the evening entertaining. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what it is. It's reality.
Yeah.
You know,
It
when
is
when
reality,
things are
especially
perfect,
for me.
it makes it more fun. It makes it more real. It makes it more it makes us as humans, I think, when we have these situations arise, it makes us humble. It makes us
Mhm.
realize that, you know what? If something arises that doesn't go the way you want it to, you go with the flow and you keep moving forward, right?
Exactly. Exactly. We
It's
figured
you're
it
not
out.
well, yeah. And it's not like we're children. We don't sit there and go, "Oh my God!" Like, can you imagine if Tracy would have went, "Oh my God, I'm not doing this presentation anymore. I'm done. I can't get the computer working." Like, I don't think we don't do that as adults. We say, "Okay, you know what?
I want to
Oh,
sometimes.
definitely,
I
it
know.
happens."
Some days
But
I'm
we
like, oh gosh, the computer, me again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you for
Um,
having me.
we'll have you back again. So I know that we have a third session and fourth session with you that you provided. So Tracy, we have already asked her to come back in our summer session to come and teach her third class with us. So we already have her earmarked for that. And so on that note, I will end the live stream and we'll stay on Zoom with those of you on Zoom, but everybody online, I don't know if Step's going to happen tomorrow, and I don't think I'll be doing it. So I'm all
I'll see how I feel waking up
congested right now.
early in the morning.
So we'll see what happens, but we'll
It's always hard when one is sleeping and the other one has to wake up.
uh
It was a great